podcast excellence since 2005. This is the King of Podcasts radio network, kingofpodcasts.com.
A listener wrote me this week, tells me that all I've gotten for the fence sitting that I've done is a sore crotch. I'll read the letter to you.
Woo! Hey, this is the Nature Boy Ric Flair, and believe it or not, whether you like it or don't like it, learn to love it, because you have to listen to Wrestling is Real. It is the best thing going today. Woo!
The worldwide leader of podcasting excellence, the King of Podcasts Radio Network proudly presents The Wrestling is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us.
Welcome to episode 876 of the Wrestling is Real podcast. This is King of Podcasts. The website is kingofpodcasts.com. You can find all my programming there, all my past episodes, and also, of course, other programming that I do on the King of Podcasts Radio Network. And I got some listener feedback this week in two different directions. I would say somebody that does agree with where I'm talking about when it comes to wrestling, and then someone that doesn't. So I'll just give you the quick feedback of what I got. So on my YouTube channel, Ringtone Flex 269 writes, I've noticed since a while, WWE has been declining badly. I don't understand what change was working so quickly. And it's becoming terrible to watch right now. That it was a little hard to read, but yeah, he's saying that he sees a decline, I would say, since WrestleMania. And I said that on the program last week, talking about it. And then I get a note from another listener, and it's James Batten 9854. He took some time to write this to me. So look, I'm not one to go ahead and, if I were to write somebody to a wrestling podcast or to any podcaster, if you're taking the time to go and write to me about it, then okay, we'll go ahead and take the letter and I'll read it. Look, unlike other of my fellow podcast wrestling brethren, they probably won't even go through reading hate mail, or I don't know, maybe not hate mail, but he was very, very, very constructively critical with me. We'll say it like that. So listen, I'm not here to go and bash or anything like that. I'm here to go ahead and read it. And this is a great way for me to go and set the tone for tonight's program, because the fandom is very much at a fever pitch right now because of a lot of things that are going on. I'll just lay out the whole thing right now for everyone. So at one end, NXT is going to CW, CM Punk being the guest referee for an NXT World Title match with All Ego Ethan Page and Trick Williams. Okay. Then him getting a little bit involved with Roxanne Perez and being set up where her and Julia will be facing each other for the women's title at that NXT debut. Saturday night's main event coming back to NBC, December 14th. A live show from Nassau Coliseum. Trying to bring back the nostalgia of old. And trust me, I was always a big fan of Saturday night's main event. We all were. Okay. I've heard all the stories about it. And then AEW has their TV deal that is imminent now. And the word is already being said that a 3-year deal with a 4th-year option, the ballpark of the broadcast revenue they're going to be receiving for this is in the area of $180 million. All those stories right there really bring everybody out through a froth right now of the fandom out there, which is, and I encompass it like this: the fandom that I referred to, there's a WWE fandom and an AEW fandom. They're all attached to WWE in the first place. I brought that up last week. There's a whole accumulation of people that, they're pretty much in consensus that they were not always happy with Vince McMahon's vision and what he decided to go and do with the product, but they were more than happy to go and move on from Vince McMahon. And that's something I see this very clear right now with the fandom out here. On the AEW side, I talked about the fact that there are fans that they split off in the last 5-10 years or so as Raw and SmackDown were declining in ratings, and there was just a loss of interest in the product because of where they were going with certain things. And AEW became their deal in 2019. And, there's a lot of fans that will defend it to the hilt, even with its flaws. I don't talk enough about the flaws. I never do that because, honestly, it gets brought up so much anyway from the rest of my fellow podcast wrestling brethren. So what am I going to do about that? What am I going to add to that that's going to be any different? Okay. And trust me, the letter I'm going to read to you will take care of will lay out the criticism of AEW for me. Let's just put it like that. Now, the WWE side are loyalists. If obviously they were fans, Attitude Era, I'm sure. And if they were not watching while the Attitude Era was going on, maybe before, but there are fans that will unapologetically be loyal to the product because now Triple H is in control. And it's not Vince. A WWE without Vince. And so we've been seeing that now for the last 2 years. Since SummerSlam 22. And now Triple H and the TKO Group Holdings brass are in complete control. They have changed the dynamic of things right now. The morale in the locker room, they say it's improved. You're seeing a lot more matches that people will go and see. And, the thought process is that you have all these stars that are here, long matches, banger matches, this and that. Everybody's praising Sheamus and Pete Dunne, and everybody's, praising Io Sky and Bianca Belair, even though Io Sky took the win. It's a 50-50 booking scenario. But like I said, I've been a fence sitter. And this writer is calling me out for it. So here we go. So this is from episode 869 that I did. So it's been, a couple of months. The WWE Fanatics era or AEW All In awaiting a new TV deal. So James here heard that episode on my YouTube channel, and he writes, succeed? None of these wrestlers, including midget jobber Friedman and Ocean Spray, we know who they are succeeding. Also, I have listened to the 10 most recent episodes of yours, and for a guy who is supposedly about substance, you surely missed the shallowness of the MJF Will Ospreay feud. Okay. He lays it out for me and gives me bullet points. Number 1, regarding the Tiger Putter 45321, how long was Brian actually out for? About 2 weeks? Wow, what a life-altering, scarring event injury. 2, this so-called long match was a joke, just another long match for the sake of same. Given that wrestlers of old could wrestle Broadways and calmly walk to the back, midget jobber should be ashamed for using that oxygen tank. Ric Flair's toenails could outperform this loser. They only took the belt off of Will Ospreay so he could turn right around and win it back a month later because they couldn't see that. If built properly, Will Ospreay, successfully defending in his home country, could be just as big. 4, I know you got off on the promos, but listen to what they were arguing about. They actually argued about being the face of a failing company. Don't get me wrong, AEW will be around, but they aren't getting double their original deal. Their ratings suck. Their demos suck. So what is so proudful about not drawing? Overall, no matter how good the promos were, well-performed nothing is still nothing. If you don't believe me, then look at it this way. Both men are the exact same now as they were before the feud started. No greater or lesser, which is the same metric that you use against WWE feuds. I am for wrestling, for all wrestling and for all opinions, but you, sir, have a double standard hidden behind the fence that you're sitting on. So admit that you like AEW better, and that is cool, but stop pretending that you don't have a bias. After all, the only thing you get from fence sitting is a sore crotch. Okay. His opinion is fine. Totally entitled to it. I mean, it is typical of what I hear a lot of fans that are not necessarily happy with AEW. You know, they want to have AEW booked a certain way, and they don't like it. Let me tell you like this here, okay? Triple H right now in the WWE without Vince, right? The WWE WV. I'm not going to use that. I'm just going to say the without Vince era of WWE. Triple H is trying to take the promise of 2012. Remember we talked about that? Or 2014, right? Where the whole McMahon family came out and said, we're going to give you what you want. So apparently, we see the house shows. We see the sold-out crowds. All Okay. We see the pay-per-views. Triple H is apparently, to a fan base that is not that big, he's giving them what they want. Meanwhile, AEW, Tony Khan's controlling the pen. There might be some things, obviously, from the beginning that fans were happy about because it was a fresh change. 5 years later, there's some bitterness and there's some hostility and there's some pushback on what AEW's been doing. So with AEW, I mean, one of the things that I got to think about is the fact that, you know, of the level of stardom that certain stars have coming in from other companies that already have such a long track record and such a rivalry that they already have coming in. I mean, what do you do when you have Kazuchika Okada, Will Ospreay, Mercedes Moné as the most recent free agent signees that they brought in? So we take those three examples right now. Now, before I get to those three, let's talk about MJF. Look, I don't expect, you know, the understanding for MJF and where people don't like what he's doing. But MJF, if there's anything I'm going to say, look, he's still so young. So the wrestling acumen that he has right now, his control in the ring and what he does, he's 26 years old? I mean, this guy's still got a long career ahead of him. But what always impresses me and what is important to the other aspects, the other attributes I want from professional wrestling is there's an aura, there's a ring generalship, and there's something about the emotional investment that a star will give you and what they do to also change themselves. In the 5 years that MJF has been here, and by the way, remember, I followed MJF when I saw him coming in from MLW. Like, the first time I see him out there with Aria Blake, he's going out for just some random jobber match. And I'm looking at him and I'm like, man, this guy just cutting just a ridiculous promo. He's got the heat immediately in this crowd. I don't know if anybody knew who he was. It was pre-Dynasty, by the way. So before he had Richard Holiday and Alexander Hammerstone part of the faction, this was just him by himself with the Burberry and Aria Blake. And it was like, okay, he has the girl, he has like this attitude, whatever, and he just feels like he's somebody important. To the point, I believe there are people out there now in MLW that even are kind of like following along the same track, to be honest with you. At the moment, I'm looking at Brett Ryan Gosselin from MLW. I almost feel like his particular persona is kind of taking from MJF as well, just to be honest with you. But the thing is with MJF, he is playing the heel in a way that some of the best heels that I ever enjoyed on TV watching wrestling for 40 years were the best. Rick was one of them. Obviously, Ric Flair, you know, is my GOAT. He's going to be the greatest of all time in my list. Of the current day wrestlers, one of my favorites right now is no doubt MJF. I enjoy his work. There's a lot of time and work into the promos that he does. There is something about what he does in the ring to be a chicken shit heel and how he puts that all together. You know, having the gimmicks to go ahead and try to keep himself, you know, winning titles with the Dynamite Diamond ring or using other people and paying people off. Like, there's the whole thing that he's done, what his 5 years in that company has done and why he was paid handsomely to return and extend his contract. Remember, there are a lot of people that absolutely would wish that WWE would have signed MJF. But I think at the time now, if Vince McMahon was around, or if TKO Group of Holdings was not in the ownership right now of WWE, and it was still McMahon family owned, and I think Triple H was in charge, I think Triple H would have probably given the kind of offer that Tony Khan would have done, probably would have matched or overmatched, and probably would have gotten in MJF in that realm. But for me, MJF in that realm, I think he works best when he's not going to be in WWE, because there is a certain level of his crudeness, his heeldom that would not be able to work. And obviously he's a smaller guy, which is what, you know, James is saying right here. He's not a big guy, but for him to be 5'8" and 200 pounds, I mean, he's a bigger than life star because of the fact that in every interview he does, he stays in character. He stays in character in everything. He lives the character, basically. I mean, I don't know if he ever has a time when he doesn't. He's opened himself up pretty well and been very vulnerable, which is very reality-based at the fact that I don't think there's a lot of people that can say that he does that. I think he puts a lot of passion and a lot of effort into all his work. I think he does a great job right now of trying to help other stars build up. Because for the first few years, it was Cody Rhodes, Chris Jericho, CM Punk that was helping to elevate and enhance MJF. He's returning the favor now, working with the likes of, listen, you might not think that Will Ospreay needs any kind of rub from MJF, but Will Ospreay, when have we heard anything about his work in Ring of Honor or, Revolution Pro, wherever he's worked at previously, where there's been, feuds that are attached to it, where there are promos, there are storylines, there are angles that are attached to him. Because everything I've ever heard about Will Ospreay coming into AEW were his matches. The 2016 match with Ricochet, seeing him work in Ring of Honor in the Sinclair era, and knowing he's worked, in New Japan and watching him Wrestle Kingdom. Like, listen, for me, it's the missing component for Will Ospreay that I think there is. And I think right now, we can nitpick all we want about Bryan Danielson coming back from the Tiger Driver and everything that comes from that. Right. But the other thing too is that it's still, there's going to be some misses, and there is a miss on the fact that Danielson came back as early as he did from the neck sting injury that he had. Yes. But again, it's also trying to go and say that Bryan Danielson is that resilient and tough, and he's just going to keep going. Same thing we're going to have where Danielson got hurt, and he's going to make it back in time to take on Nigel McGuinness at Arthur Ashe Stadium for Grand Slam. Same thing. So Bryan Danielson is consistent in the fact that they keep wanting to bring him back after he gets hurt, neck injuries or whatever he's gone through. He continues to go and make his way back. So I get that part. I understand where you're coming from there. But then you also look at the fact that Will Ospreay's storyline right now, he's been involved in so many different things. His involvement initially with the Don Callis family, he's been brought back and recruited back in so that for the sake of Don Callis and his jealousness and his greed, he wants him and, he wants him and Kyle Fletcher to work together, bring back Aussie Open. Don Callis set things up to get him, Will Ospreay, and Kyle Fletcher back to go and reunite United Empire, at least those two members, and go after the tag team titles, which is already being done right now. But there's a way that Will Ospreay is being used right now, currently, which is important. For those that wanted to go and see the dream match once again relived, Ospreay and Ricochet once again, we get that 5-year anniversary of Dynamite. But before that, the tag team titles go in, and they'll Will Ospreay, for the fact that he's being put so important right here in the main event tonight, and is in very important storylines right now. The Tiger Driver has always been a thing that he had a kind of issue with, but of course he used it against MJF in the rematch, and that storyline was just to give where there's a no more ruthlessness to Will Ospreay now, but he's still without having a conscience and feeling like he's got loyalty to certain people. He doesn't see himself getting screwed over here eventually, because Takeshi is going to go and do something to Ospreay eventually down the line. We see that happening. Ospreay's been put into the opportunity to go work with MJF and build into a real heat-filled storyline, because one thing for me in the MJF Will Ospreay storyline I got is I felt there was real heat and animosity to those guys. They built that up. It wasn't just bruv a feud. It was much more than that. Because personally to me, I think MJF does a very good job at making people get pissed off at him. Okay? That's his job. And he's unapologetic for doing that. He just doesn't give a shit. I wasn't necessarily big about him turning face and pairing with Adam Cole. People love that. That's fine. But it wasn't the MJF I'm always used to. I like him as a heel. And that's the thing where that's just opinions, everybody can have their own. But I enjoyed the feud. I'm not going to go ahead and push back. I'm not going to go ahead and, give up the fact that I think that that's something wrong. I don't think there was anything wrong with that feud. I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the matches they have. 60 minutes. I enjoy, listen, like Jim Ross will always talk about, like, he enjoys a good Broadway, and I do too. I like, listen, we don't have to go and have always the outcomes have to be win, loss, or DQ. I like draws. We can have those. And it's been important to have those in various cases. And I think when they've done draws in this company, it's worked really well. That's just the way I look at it. Part of it is that people don't like the way that Tony Khan books. He's a fan. He's got his own fandom himself. He has his own feeling of how he is. He's just a fan like everybody else. It's interesting that Bryan Danielson is actually part of the fact that he had 2 60-minute matches so far in his time in AEW with Hangman Adam Page, AEW World Title, and it was a draw. But Adam Page, I think overall, the fact of his build up to where he was to becoming AEW World Champion, to having his feud with CM Punk, the animosity they had right there and all that build up, to the level where Adam Page now has had his issues with Young Bucks and the Elite, to his Swerve Strickland feud, which was phenomenal. I think, the way have just gone, and those guys will never stop feuding with each other. There's just no doubt about that. And now, even with Adam Page, in my own opinion, I'm still, seeing him and Jeff Jarrett still go at it. I know some people are just like, why is Jeff Jarrett still out there? Because everybody thinks TNA and King of the Mountain and all this, right? It's a different Jeff Jarrett. And I don't think he brings anybody out. This is not slapping us WCW Jeff Jarrett being booked by Vince Russo to be champion. It's a different time. And then MJF and Bryan Danielson also 60-minute Iron Man match. Great match as well. For me, I look at the body of work of what MJF has done and his work altogether. And, I don't know what you would think, James, about MJF with his feud with Daniel Garcia and how that was set up. I've enjoyed that as well, too. It's something about where MJF is trying to help enhance and build up Daniel Garcia. And I think Daniel Garcia, as I said before, will eventually turn heel because his vitriol, his hatred, the fact he wants to go ahead and destroy MJF and everything he stands for, tells me he's going to become him. And having that dark side to Daniel Garcia, the dancing stuff he's done as a babyface, is only getting him so far. Changing him to this other character, I don't know. It might work. And with AEW for itself, the fact of how they go and pull off some of the things they've done to help enhance some of their talent. Orange Cassidy, it's funny where he gets to continue to be the same character as he is. And 4 years later, we're seeing him against Chris Jericho to start off Dynamite. And I enjoy it. Jericho, hey, he's missing on this learning tree deal. I'm not into that. It's not his best work. But the guy likes to change himself and evolve. So I can't knock him for the fact that he's going to have some gimmicks that are not going to work. Like, how many times are you going to keep striking gold on every gimmick he decides to change to? And that's where I feel about it. It's tough for Tony Khan to have certain toys that he has when it comes to a Takeshita or an Okada or having some of the stars from Mexico like Mortos or Commander, trying to build new stars that he has in here like the Outrunners. Hologram, trying to build him up. People have their animosity with the fact that everybody feels like AEW is going to become WCW, or AEW is going to become what TNA was. And there are certain people in the WWE fandom that expect AEW to fail. Like I said, I don't have an allegiance to it. Here's the thing. I don't even talk that much about them. If I really do talk about them, it's really during pay-per-views. But let me also explain this here. Being the fence sitter, James, is the fact that no matter what, AEW, I like the fact and I appreciate them more. And as you want me to say, okay, if I like AEW better, I like the fact that AEW is a disruptor. Because I was pissed off for many years the fact that when WCW folded in 2001 and all we had was WWE and the way they were going to do things, and then they fucked up everything they did with WCW and the invasion angle and the ECW invasion angle, all I saw was after the fact because I was not going to watch that shit live. I was not going to put myself through and be disappointed by what they would do with those stars. Because there are just certain stars that just will not work in WWE, because at the end of the day, they are a sports entertainment company. They're a television company. Vince Russo's been saying that as well. TV company. Okay? They have wrestling. They have a lot of great wrestling. But it's also some of the same stars we've seen that have been around forever. Okay? And they are struggling right now. Personally, they're struggling a lot with getting new stars over. Because the certain crop of stars we have down at NXT, and some of the ones that he brought up to the draft in the last couple of years, trying to bring them up, it's not working for me. But I'm going to say, out of what they've done, there are still diamonds that are in this that are still getting over and are still popular. But one of the things that was kind of overshadowing the fact of some of the weaknesses that WWE had was the Bloodline was such a damn good storyline. I mean, when the Bloodline was hot, man, you couldn't stop me from talking about it. The praise is to the roof, and everybody who knows about that. I said it was better than NWO. And I still feel that way. The NWO, hey, it was good up until you had Hogan, Hall, Nash, and Six. You didn't have to go much farther than that. You know, because that was me, that was the nucleus of it was. You know, from July 96 up until like the first year or so, fine. All about that. It just got too big. It got overblown. I did enjoy Bischoff being a part of it. And, you know, but the thing was, we all know that it just encompassed and just swallowed up everything else that WCW was. Because NWO just took the breath out of everything else. Meanwhile, I wanted to enjoy all the great matches, the cruiserweights and all that we were doing. You know, the thing is, too, is that it's one thing to see all the great matches that I've seen right now that we could see on WWE television on a regular basis. But I also go through the fact that I used to watch certain stars, you know, going back to cruiserweights, watching WCW or watching or watching ECW, and just watching matches for the matches. But there were at least certain gimmicks with the stars that you would see. The Luchadors, you had something about that you knew about them and what they did. You knew who La Parka was. You knew who Juventud Guerrero was. You just saw who Rey Mysterio was, and you know, Psychosis. There was something about those luchadors that had a certain like a thing to it. Dean Malenko, Chris Benoit, Perry Saturn, Chris Jericho, all had different things to themselves. Like at least there was something you could kind of feel like there was something to their persona as they were. And you knew their moveset, you knew who they were, and that was what it was. And then one of the things that irks me a lot with WWE is the fact that, you know, there's certain gimmicks that did not work. And so the best course of action is to revert stars back to an original gimmick associated with a developmental product. Putting Pete Dunne back to Pete Dunne from Butch. And the fact that Sheamus and Pete Dunne had a match for the sake that, okay, let's just break up the Brawling Brutes just to break up the Brawling Brutes. And then we're going to use the fact that Pete doesn't like to be called Butch. So let's call him Bruiserweight back once again, making the NXT UK star, small guy. Ilya Dragunov, the whole thing with his whole setup, still small guy. I mean, we're trying to go ahead and, you know, when you talk about midget jobbers, the thing is that look at the size of some of the stars we have right now. That we're trying to go ahead and, like, you know, we're supposed to suspend disbelief on how that they're larger than life. So JD McDonough, right? Grayson Waller, Austin Theory. They're not necessarily that tall. They're not necessarily big and bulky, right? I mean, Pete Dunne's bulky, but also he's not that tall. Ilya Dragunov, not that tall. Carmelo Hayes, you know, is from the build that I've always seen of stars that always were standard issue that Vince McMahon wanted to have. I talked about it for a long time. It was always like the 6'4", 6'5", 250 to 300 pounders. You know, that's where John Cena comes in. That's where Randy Orton comes in. That's where Cody Rhodes comes in. You know, it was just a certain size and build. But now Triple H wants to go ahead and, you know, tear off the sports entertainment idea. Doesn't want any of that. He also doesn't want to have this particular ceiling or this quota of like, oh, these wrestlers need to be a certain size. And if he wants to have bigger guys, they don't have to be built up. They don't have to be Undertaker or looking like Omos or looking like, you know, Kane. But now we see guys that are just bigger guys. Like Otis at one point was getting in more shape, and now he's, back to kind of where he is. Big Bronson Reed. If you want to say he's like Bam Bam Bigelow, I don't know if I could put that distinction together. I mean, you're saying something about a guy I really enjoyed a lot as well, through various companies and worked through a lot of different things. I don't put Bronson Reed there. I mean, he's good, but also he's limited because of the fact that there's a thing where Triple H is just trying to break the whole stigma of what Vince wanted. So he doesn't care about the fact that, certain stars have an accent, whether it's British or whether it's Japanese or whether it's Spanish or whatever. He wants to break that whole mold out of there. Just destroy it. Hit it with a hammer. Like Cody hit the throne. And he wants to just break all that. And I think it's just for the sake of it. But then all you're doing is just taking WWE away from the mystique and the stigma and what Vince built and making it just something that's just ordinary. Because the stars we're seeing right now are ordinary. Their gimmicks, there's nothing about them that really makes sense. Like, okay, the entrances are cool. Fine. But catchphrases or any particular move sets that they have that really are stand out and people are just like, okay, that nobody should take from them. It's like, come on. And then there's also certain stars they decide to go ahead and put on the side. Okay. You're losing Bobby Lashley now to AEW because for whatever reason, he didn't get re-signed. I don't know, but I'm fine with Bobby Lashley going somewhere else. Like I said, I think some of his best work was in TNA. I really did. So having him go, if MVP decides to follow with him, that's great. Not rock on. I have hated the way they've booked Jade Cargill. AEW, I think, for what it was worth, I think Jade Cargill, it's another person that's a bit green in the ring. Keep the matches to 5 minutes. She's like the female version of Goldberg. But I also felt with Jade Cargill, there was this real attitude about her. The baddies, Mark Sterling. I thought that whole entourage she had was great. And I thought the whole time Jade Cargill was out there was just massive. I just thought she was gold. I've praised. But then also okay, we're going to put off to the side and have go into a tag team feud and into tag team purgatory by pairing her up with Bianca Belair, who I will say, and I started hearing other wrestling podcasters out there saying the same thing. What is Bianca Belair doing right now, being held off to the side on tag team title work? Let's split Jade and Bianca and have them feud with each other. Something. I don't like this here. Bianca Belair should not be at this spot. Jade Cargill should be on a rocket ship on the way up. She should have been on this roster right now, destroying everyone on the roster. She should be a one-woman wrecking crew right now on all these people on the roster in the women's division. She should have been out there and just squash, and then just build her up and just become formidable. And get her near a title, a singles belt, not tag team gold. And the thing too is that with Bianca Belair, look at how well they booked her anyway. Because she was champion, lost the belt, won it back to back WrestleManias. And I said, she was made. She's a star forever. She's fantastic. What a great gimmick. What a great personality. So likable, so lovable, so just wonderful. She just got it. She has the it factor. Totally has it. But they're shelving her and anchoring her in this. And that's what I'm saying too. Certain stars being anchored. So let's go into what happened in the week of TV, right? And the fact of the matter is, and look, James, is that a sufficient answer for you? Because I think I made my point. I will double down. I will continue to go and stay on the fence because of the fact that in conclusion of this point, I want AEW for the fact that, okay, it's surviving, it's thriving, it's making it to another broadcast deal, okay? It's going to stay around. For those that thought the deal was not going to happen, I don't care about that. I don't even talk about the deal right now necessarily for AEW anyway. The Puck article came out there and they brought some initial details, but you know what? When the full details come out, I see it on Variety, the Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, The Wrap. When I see the industry rags write about it, I will report on it. And I will go through the whole deal with you. Because trust me, that day's coming and I will talk about it. But in conclusion, when WWE is alone to themselves and they are mediocre or lackluster, they need competition to kick them in the ass and make them motivated to work better. Because, believe it or not, WWE and WWF has always worked better when they have competition. Vince McMahon, at his best, was pushed by competition. Triple H was given the reins, given the time slot on USA, given the resources to go live, to go head-to-head, and to take on AEW Dynamite in its initial run. Don't ever forget that. When Dynamite started, NXT moved over to the same night as Dynamite 2 weeks ahead to get the upstart. And Dynamite was able to go ahead and overcome the odds, sustain themselves. For the fact of the matter is they were able to get, 900,000 to 1 million viewers? Yeah, competition. Competition, is what makes great wrestling. Always does. So the fact of the matter is that we saw AEW succeed over NXT because Vince McMahon, of course, he's not going to go and throw the big boys, his main roster at him. No, he diminished them. He looked at them as, subservient, inferior. Look at this rebellious, rebel promotion here. Thinking they're going to take a part of my turf. Well, they won the war against NXT, and they were able to show that they were able to go and hang. They're a formidable number 2 company. They are not going to reach the level of WWE, but that doesn't matter. Because AEW is number 2 in the totem pole of wrestling promotions. And personally, I would say right now, TNA is 3rd. Ring of Honor, it doesn't matter because Tony Khan can't get a TV deal with them, so I can't really recognize what they do. And then I will say MLW because I think they're doing a great job right now. I mean, really, if you want to talk about some of the best wrestling I see and characters I see right now, in terms of storytelling, in terms of some of the character development, give me some MLW because Court Bauer, he's doing really well with that. The Contra unit, the things going on with Alex Kane and the Boomier Fight Club, all that's working for me. Matt Riddle and the whole setup, him trying to get back to the world title picture, going with the likes of Sami Callihan to deal with. That's working for me. All the stuff with Cesar Duran, Selena De La Renta, I'm all bought into that storyline. Like, there's just stuff there that I really enjoy. And honestly, I still got to watch. Is it some of the Beast? No, it's the Fightland that just came out. I got to watch Fightland. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. Or no, the Fightland's coming up. But the thing is that I want disruption. I want competition to continue to motivate and push WWE to their best. Because they need that. And for the fact that wrestling fans don't understand that concept, and for the fact that this program was built on the ideal that other wrestling promotions, for the reality of wrestling to be thriving as a business, AEW cannot fail. We need other wrestling promotions to be around. And WWE's heyday, they were up against World Class Championship Wrestling, NWA, UWF. I mean, they were up against a lot of competition. And survived all that. Vince won the war there. He beat WCW. And WCW, for its worth, Eric Bischoff, man, he gave Vince McMahon a run. I disagree with him trying to think that he just needed to go and take on Vince McMahon. I think, no, we could coexist. It's okay. And I also always said that for the wrestlers, it's always good to have multiple promotions and multiple exposure for whatever they want. Because like I said, for Ospreay and for Okada and for Monet, hey, the chance of being picked up by WWE was there. But the fans, it doesn't matter what you say. It's the money that matters. So they all took good contracts to go over where they are now with Tony Khan. Ospreay, I think they're booking him pretty well. I think the storyline that they're going to have building up to him right now is this: not at the world title yet, But international champion, as significant for him. The tag team titles here coming up, working on that. And the storyline that's being built right now around Don Callis' family, yeah, that works for me. And of course, there's other people around him that are also keeping an eye. Pac, when it comes to Ricochet, among others. There's a target on his back. The Mercedes Moné thing right now, as I said, the Britt Baker deal, that suffered. And that was also part and parcel of the fact that Britt Baker, there's a lot of things going on with the fact that she decided to go ahead and get frisky with Mercedes Moné, with MJF and Alicia Toot backstage for whatever reason. There's a falling out now, apparently, that Adam Cole and Britt Baker are no longer together. That sucks. There's a lot of things. And of course, her whole medical issue of her coming back. But, everybody wants to talk about Mercedes Moné and all the things that she's going on right now. Listen, she's going through her own issues. I think the feud did not work, but I'm still holding on to the hope to seeing that right now, the fact that they put Camille with her, it was the right move right now. And I think it just matters of who they put in feud with Mercedes Moné next. That's going to matter. That's going to make things better for that. But she comes in. Yes, they crown her with a belt. Let's see if she's going to go and kind of help out other stars and put somebody else together. There's a lot of good feuds that are going to see her in. We need to see those coming up. And with Okada, they gave him a belt. And for me, we get something that's a different dimension of Okada by him going bitch and, kind of working around with the Young Bucks. And, he's just that extra level of epicness that comes with the Elite and who they are. And I think the whole storyline with Matt and Nick have been working well. It's fine with me. I like what they're doing right now. Dealing with all the issues when it comes to FTR, the constant feuds they've had there. Like, all that works for me. Right now, Takeshi and Okada going after each other at odds. Love that stuff too. But it's also like, what else do you do with some of these stars after what they've already done? The thing is, this is like, okay, here's the big payday for some of these stars. I think it's just a matter of what you're going to do with them and how you're going to use them. They're being used. They're being utilized. You might not like what they've been utilized for and how they're being utilized, but what are you going to do? So let's go into what I have right here. Triple H right now, this is going to be a longer show. The email from James obviously got me all worked up, so I got to go through some of the things right now and talk about. Okay. There is a Kool-Aid being poured right now, red and black, and the fandom is guzzling it down. So the animosity, the tribalism, the fact that the fandom that's out there, who I'm not necessarily putting this podcast out there for those people, okay? There are plenty of people that will feed into the minds of those tribalistic fandom people, right? The WWE loyalists, right? To a fault. The AEW loyalists, also to a fault, that just, unapologetically AEW, unapologetically WWE, right? And also deciding to go ahead and go after each other. Oh, your crowds are empty. Oh, no, your crowds, you got, paid fans in there. You got seat fillers. All this kind of shit going on. Look, and I'm not here to go ahead and, go after people that say, oh, well, I can't take the time to go listen to that kind of vitriol right there. People that will go and play into that because obviously it makes money. Okay? Solo Monster, JD from New York, your Wrestling Observers, your Fightfuls, all those folks, the Sports Ketas, whatever. Okay? Everybody wants to get their piece of the clickbait, get their piece of the cash grab to get as much traffic, as much vitriol as they possibly can. Or if they just want to go ahead and feed into the happiness and the kumbaya that is this Kool-Aid, then go right ahead. I mean, if they all want to go ahead and feel like, oh, well, Vince, Vince, die, and whatever, and like shit on whatever he did that brought us the wrestling that we have today, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go ahead and neglect the fact that we don't know what this guy did that he's going to be convicted of, if he's going to get convicted. I don't think he's going to get convicted. But obviously Vince McMahon has done some shady shit in the past. There's no doubt about it. There's a way he got to where he is. No question. But I'm not going to go ahead and look at the moral of the man for the fact of the matter is that, you know what, wrestling is just that kind of business. And that through all this, whatever it was that he's done that has been shady and underhanded and really fucked up, WWF to WWE has been around 50 years plus. And there's a lot of things we all appreciate for it. And everybody knows who they are, of what they watch and all this stuff. But when Triple H or Paul Heyman or Bruce Pritchard or Shawn Michaels or whoever else that's in the back that are managing the creative team to do what they're going to do. Okay, they're off to their own device. They want to go and do things where they're breaking up factions and breaking up things and doing things to certain stars for the fact that, you know, it's something that Vince wouldn't do. Like, really, there's a lot of things that are being done right now that Vince wouldn't do. And I feel like it's on purpose. We're going to create WWE without Vince. Hey, look, they create the house show loop. The atmosphere is like at the house shows, the crowd is up and at it. And like, they think that the house show crowd, the hotness of the crowd and how they look at the matches, that's going to go ahead and resonate with fans watching. But you know what? That doesn't make a damn difference when it came to boxing. Doesn't make a difference when it comes to UFC. You know, if you want sports fans to watch, you're not going to grow the fan base of wrestling with something that's already predetermined. Which is why you need characters, which is why you need gimmicks, which is why you need other things going on to create the mystique about getting emotionally involved and invested in these stars. For whatever reason, they want to do that. In some cases, you know, there's some nostalgia they want to go ahead and recreate. So the stuff that they will see in Punk and Drew McIntyre, let's add some nostalgia, make them a little bit Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, huh? So Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns teaming together, make them the new superpowers, right? Like a Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage. Something like that. I mean, Roman Reigns, he gets beaten down about the bloodline on a regular basis. And I'm like, where the Usos don't come back. And now we realize that Jimmy Uso, for whatever reason, man, poor guy, I don't know what's going on. I mean, hell, Usos have gone through their own demons and stuff when it comes to issues with the law and issues with substances and whatever that they've gone through, man. And to get back to where they are, I hope the best for Jimmy Uso. I honestly do. It concerns me when Rikishi's starting to say stuff about that on his podcast and he's making a point that, you know, something's going on there. And Roman Reigns has no bloodline of his own. No, none of his family able to go and come in and help out in here. So pairing him with Cody Rhodes, something's going on with that. And Cody Rhodes looking like he's going to go and start turning heel as champion. I mean, we'll find out where they're going to go with it, but it's still a matter that Roman Reigns is also going after a bloodline that is very inferior, in my opinion, except for one guy in that group. And Solo Sikoa, it's just he is miscast right now. He cannot be a leader. You have two enforcers in that bloodline right now. That's it. You do not have a mouthpiece, which they should have had like Paul Heyman, and you should have had you should have had somebody else in there. Like I said, Jacob Fatu, it's like, I mean, what a great star he's going to be. Whatever they're going to decide to do with him. I mean, already coming in, like I said, coming into MLW, I already could have told you Jacob Fatu is the badass, and he is. Everything is advertised. They have not fucked up with him. But my thing is that Solo Sikoa right now, running this group, Ragtag, doesn't work. And the fact that Solo Sikoa loses multiple times to Cody Rhodes, and, you know, he's not going to be a title holder. So they're not going to put the belt on Solo Sikoa regardless. That sucks because it's like Solo Sikoa in such a run here, and then be put in this position where he's just miscast. He's put in the wrong position right now. I mean, I would prefer the bloodline wasn't a bloodline. I'd prefer that Fatu and Solo were just tag team partners. And they could just go ahead and go rampage over whatever they want. Make them new Samoa SWAT team, because that works. The Tongas don't work. Judgment Day. Another storyline I hate with a passion of what they've done. To break off Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley as two of the most important components that really fused that group together, along with Dominik Mysterio. Because to me, those were the three most important people in that whole faction. Period. Adding Finn Balor, I've grown to live with it. And then JD McDonough. I mean, just listen, Finn Balor is the guy that broke the group up more or less. Now we know it's for sure because of the fact that it's not only the fact that he wanted to screw over Damian Priest, he also encouraged Dom to go to Liv and leave Rhea Ripley. Got it. Liv Morgan, as a romantic love interest, I hate it. I always have said, I've been saying it for a while now, when she was working with Ronda Rousey and she was getting built up and becoming a star in that realm and having that real mean streak, I liked it. I thought that it was well deserved for her to become women's champion. I did. SmackDown Women's Champion, I liked it. And I liked her work in NXT. I think, there's a lot there. Always kind of like, Riot Squad, put her into another group. And then right here, it's like Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan, it's nothing about the matches they have and nothing about what they're doing in terms of the ring, just being used as like, romantic fodder. And I feel that's beneath both of them. With Rhea Ripley, I hope they move on from this at some point, but I know they can't do anything about it. They're stuck with this here, and the crowds want us to watch it. Whatever. I mean, with Dominik on its own is fine. Listen, he is over for the fact that he's got Vicky Guerrero heat. He's got it, and they've done. It's really built on the fact of what they did with him prior to really what they're doing right now. Okay, you've done the new thing where he broke off with Rhea, and that's what's going to give him the heat. But it was all the other stuff that he's done before with his dad and with the one day in jail and all this stuff that really built up the persona that he is right now. And he plays the crowd so well. I mean, that works. So look, out of the group we have right now, I wish Solo Sikoa was in a different place, but he's miscast right now. And he's anchored right now in this bloodline. Jacob Fatu, I said it before over and over. I wish he wasn't part of this group. I wish he was going against the bloodline. Maybe there's a part where Jacob Fatu breaks off because they're already trying to show that right now that Jacob Fatu is getting screwed over because Solo Sikoa is just using him and it's just abusing the privilege, the power that he has as a tribal chief. And Jacob Fatu should go and make the move over, but we're not going to get to that yet. And so with Judgment Day, Liv Morgan is a star. I don't want her back in this kind of role once again, romantic interest and just being this kind of, annoying heel, because that's what she is right now. Because then you're diminishing everything that she's been about her being a wrestler. And for her work in the ring, it's always like this other part about her being, with Daddy Dom and all that stuff. Whatever. Then you have the stretching out, infinite stretching out of CM Punk and Drew McIntyre. Like, CM Punk acting like he's like all tired or whatever. He's starting to sound like Shawn Michaels with a rasp. I'm going on in a blaze of glory. And it's like, whatever. It's 96 again. And I'm like, I'm not into this either. I am so tired of Drew McIntyre. Please move these guys on for somebody else. CM Punk has got so many other people to work against. And I'm not necessarily thinking it's Gunther either. Personally. With Gunther, I think it's just, to put him with Sami Zayn, come on. There have to be other players you could put right now with Gunther. And I'm not into that much either. I'm like, with Gunther, it's like there's so much more they could be doing. I'm glad he's champion here. And I just wish they gave him other people to go work with. I mean, the respect with Randy Orton. The match was fine, but I'm not much into that. And I mean, look, Randy Orton did put him over. To go and solidify for him. And then there was also okay, then the Sami Zayn, this thing after everything he's done from after being part of being an honorary Uso of the Bloodline. And then seeing Sami Zayn here in this role as instigator. He just always has to get his nose into everything when it came to Alpha Academy because they helped him train. And now the thing with Gunther and getting all involved with that. And I was like, I hate this role for Sami Zayn. It's another part where it's like, okay, this underdog picked himself back up. I'm not buying into it. It's too kumbaya. It's too soft, in my opinion. That's where my personal thought is on it. they're going to go to Jey Uso and Bron Breakker now, setting that up for a match, the IC title match coming up next week. And, Jey Uso, the fact that, he's had all these wins and never really got a chance to get that singles gold yet. But they're both kind of feeling like faces in the same way. Like, I don't like face versus face. Like, I still am of the old school feeling of like faces versus heels. Like, who's going to have the heat here? Because you got to have some heat. And I don't feel like what Jey Uso did right there with Bron Breakker didn't work for me. And so far with Bron Breakker, I just feel like his title run, it's going to matter if he had somebody else to work with. Because I think him working with Sami Zayn didn't work for me either. I just think there's just some other stars you could work with. And it wasn't like it was booked perfectly right now in NXT either. Because of what they were doing with him. But there's no doubt the upside with Bron Breakker is there. They haven't done anything to ruin him or anything like that. I just think that you could be doing so much more to build on the character. He just can't be just a woof dog pound kind of whatever. Like, you're just going to build him off like his daddy? I don't want to do that either. Like, you could, of course, respect for the fact of how he is. But, like, no, I don't want it like that. Because if you're going to do that, then give him the name Steiner, not Bron Breakker. Like, I'm actually surprised that they never changed his name back. But they kept it. Okay. The veterans being used as jobbers, Natalya, Braun Strowman. It's like, all right, they're just going to be used for this. The idea of the house show crowd getting all happy about, oh, look at all this stuff being broken right now with big Bronson Reed and Braun Strowman and Bronson Reed throwing guys at him. That looked cool, don't get me wrong. They missed a shot, though. I mean, they kind of missed a shot. And by the way, Braun, no selling the guy being thrown at him and then running into Bronson Reed. It's like, okay, the no selling, that's a little bit too much. And then Braun also, after all the work, all the stuff that was being done to him, he still was able to go and tip over a golf cart. When Braun Strowman's tipped over a lot of other stuff. And Wade Barrett going over the top. Don't forget, we need 10 ambulances for after this match. What are you talking about? The Adam Pearce character. Okay, setting up the Hell in a Cell. Let's take the glasses off. Hell in a Cell. Right? Do it the Vince McMahon style. His general managerial decision of thinking that Sami Zayn is, he is considering, he makes a valid argument that Sami Zayn should go and take on Gunther. And yes, Sami Zayn has been the faction breaker. He's broken up the Bloodline, Alpha Academy, Imperium. That's what he's been doing. And as I said, 50-50 booking. Kumbaya with everybody out there. I don't like it. But it still comes down to the fact that we can go ahead and discuss and dispute all this every week on this program. It still comes down to results. I come in with the fact of the matter is that there's a delusional aspect to the fandom in the WWE side and the AEW side. But let's look at results. No matter what, WWE is going to get their almost $1 billion a year on TV deals. Cut down on the amount of live shows to 200 eventually. They're going to be, profiting just fine, charging more money for the live shows. Get ready for that, folks. How much do you feel like you're going to be loyal to that fandom you have right now when WWE is going to go and charge you more money? Hundreds of dollars now. I looked at this, the deal where it was while I was going to go watch Raw in Miami or go watch Raw in Fort Lauderdale when they were down here. It was SmackDown in Miami and Raw in Fort Lauderdale. And I'm like, yeah, $150? Oh, no, we're not going to do that. No one good seats at all. I'm not doing that. So you got to ask yourself, are you willing to go and spend that kind of money for the live shows? Are you ready to go and spend $23 or whatever you're going to spend, or maybe $15 for the basic package to get Netflix and watch it? Like, that's the thing. Money where your mouth is. Is your fandom so hardcore right now that you're going to watch that? Meanwhile, the ratings themselves, look, they get what they're going to get on social media when it comes to their impressions and their views. Sure. But still, they got to perform for their broadcast partners. So you want to talk about Dynamite, Rampage, and Collision? Well, they're going to drop Dynamite, apparently, it looks like. Collision's going to stay around. with Dynamite in the new deal. Apparently a new show called Shockwave is in the mix, and they want to shop that around to another outlet outside of Warner Brothers Discovery, and they're already trying to make the inroads that FS1 might be interested in it. Okay. I mean, still the fact of the matter is that when AW does put a good show together, they can pull 800,000, 700,000 viewers. Yeah, they're not pulling the big numbers like they were before. And I'll tell you what, we all might forget for the fact that when NXT was going up head-to-head with them, those numbers were up when they were up head-to-head, when they had competition with them. Because then a lot of eyeballs were watching the product. Because of the whole idea of the Monday Night Wars, we're bringing it back again. But a couple of different interesting things when it comes to USA now having all the WWE programming at the current point, okay? Raw going up this week against Monday Night Football. Monday Night Football getting 13 million viewers. It was only on ESPN, not on ABC. And those are just random times that happens. Game was not very well watched. For the fact of the matter is that the game was sloppy and a blowout, and it's Philly and Atlanta. People thought that Philly was going to go and blow the Falcons out of the water. And really the only important part that people were going to watch was after the game because, somehow Kirk Cousins finds some life in him and he's able to go and pull down a minute-long drive and go down, 70 yards to score. Come back on Philly. And what a boneheaded drop by Saquon Barkley in that game. Let's just make that point clear too. So Raw gets 1.5 million viewers up against Monday Night Football. Yes, up from 1.4 million last week. But that is the barrier right now. And when Monday Night Football is getting some more premier matchups coming up, and ABC is picking them up, and let me tell you, I hate to say this, WNBA playoffs are coming up too. Caitlin Clark can pull 1 million viewers right now. She's doing it regularly on the Ion channel. Okay? When the WNBA playoffs, if Caitlin Clark is playing on Monday night, expect a little bit of a erosion for the ratings as well because WNBA playoffs is going to draw a number, believe it or not. You got that. You got Monday Night Football. So 1.4, 1.3, don't be surprised. Meanwhile, SmackDown, and the fact that they dropped away from Fox, right? So SmackDown goes over to USA, 1.7323 million viewers. So now you're not going to have the rabbit ears out there for folks to watch on Fox. And as it looks like, Fox decided to go ahead and put on now, they're going to have college football, and then they're going to move on to other live sports going forward into the spring. Oh, the UFL, that's right. So they're going to have sports going on to replace SmackDown. They're already doing it now. And the first thing they had was a Big 12 matchup with Kansas State, and their college football game got 2.5 million viewers. Pretty good. They're going to make, you're not even going to have the most premier games they have right now in, conference action they have for Fox on Friday night, but that's going to do pretty well. And it replaces the 2.34 million that they were getting from WWE for the amount of money they were spending. And for Fox Sports to go ahead and take one of their games and put it as they want, I mean, that's not much out of the issue for them to go and put sports on there. It works fine. And then also, taking less of an amount than they were of that $250 million or what was it? $250 million a year they were spending, or was it more? Yeah, it was almost $300 million that Fox was spending on SmackDown. Take a portion of that and give that towards the sports budget. That's it. Works for them. So now, overall, Raw and SmackDown, they're going to be under 2 million viewers, period. Because that will take some of the audience away. And that's for 3 months until we get over to Netflix. Like I said, we're going to probably see an evening out of the ratings soon enough. Because the fact that a 2-hour show on USC on Friday nights works at 1.7, I wouldn't be surprised if Raw stays around like 1.6, 1.7 for them, because that 2-hour time slot only helps WWE in the long run. And the NXT stuff, I will say this too. In the meantime, while there's a flatlining right now of ratings on Raw and SmackDown, okay? You have to go and look at them because this is AEW in their 600, 700,000 viewers, whatever, going up against their own competition. That's not helping them either. Okay. Now we're at the point of CW is coming along, and that show's going to now, we'll see if it's going to do really well in terms of getting a bigger audience because of the fact that it'll be on broadcast TV again. But that's if people can find the CW on their cable line, or they can find it on their channel changer where they are. Okay. But NXT, they're having to go and use main roster stars to bolster up CW, the CW debut. So you put CM Punk as a guest referee in the NXT World Title match. You're going to bring in Randy Orton for another show to put him in a feature match on NXT. And then the thing is that, you know, what will stand out too, there are some stars with some real upside in NXT that I'm really enjoying right now. No doubt Roxanne Perez. And I've praised this woman. I was surprised. I understand they were going to keep her down there on that NXT roster, and there's a lot of talk about should she be elevated. Absolutely. I'm all in for being called up, whenever that is. I want to see Roxanne Perez up there. And by the way, I think what she was able to go and do in terms of her comfort level and the way she was able to go and just command herself just as much as CM Punk in the ring. More than a line of saying, oh, I'm a Drew McIntyre fan. Regardless, Roxanne Perez is there. She's got it. She's it factor, and she's always had the wrestling acumen for going back to when she was Roxy and a Ring of Honor World Champion, World Women's Champion. Great. So I'm all in for her. Kalani Jordan, I've said it. Yeah, also big upside there. I don't understand the slapping to start women's title feud. So Jada Parker slapping onto Kalani Jordan, and then Jada Parker, Kalani Jordan getting hurt, and I don't even know who the girl was that hit her. And it wasn't JC Jane, but it looks like her. They're kind of like hard to tell apart, some of the girls in that main roster, on that the NXT roster, excuse me. But Jada Parker slapping Roxanne Perez. And they have their title match. And they have that title match. And now Kalani Jordan, North American title, women's North American title, she gets slapped. Here comes another feud. Okay. And the last thing I'll bring up is Saturday night's main event. So again, December 14th, you're going back to an old school arena to do it. Uniondale, Long Island, Nassau Coliseum. They've done so many great events for WWE right there. So to go back to that heralded arena to get the whole field back, supposedly Jesse Ventura is going to come back for commentary. Okay. So they can go and recreate the vignettes they would do prior to doing the show and bring back all the nostalgia. If that's what they're going to plan to do. They're going to bring back Obsession by Animotion to bring that song back. Great. Create these kind of vignettes for the stars backstage. Great. I mean, people want to go ahead and have the nostalgia of Saturday night's main event. But it's like, when I think about the fact they're going to bring that back and what stars are going to be headlining and going to be on the card for Saturday night's main event, okay? It's a different audience than before, okay? This is not where NBC Saturday Night Live pulls off some major numbers of ratings on Saturday night still. I think they pull like maybe 3-4 million viewers, maybe. But I mean, I don't know if there are going to be a lot of people that are going to be catching that show. Obviously, when it's on Saturday night and it's like appointment viewing, that's so passe. Like it kind of works for 8 o'clock, and then you're doing other stuff and you're still kind of watching the background for Raw and SmackDown or Dynamite or whatever you're watching. But like, you know, if you're going to have people that are going to go and decide to go and watch late on Saturday night, if it's at 11:30, then are we going to do it again where if they're taking over Saturday Night Live, if that's going to be the case, you're going to have to pre-tape that show. That's going to be done, not going to be done live, right? I don't know what they're going to do with that and how they're going to set that up and what's going to be like. And, you know, it's whatever. But again, they don't have any pay-per-view after Survivor Series, right? So main event will be there. It'll be kind of like a pay-per-view. Kind of like that's what it's going to be. But for me, you know, to think about the stars that we used to watch on main event leading up to that, you know, that there's the star power that they have. Not, you know, the fact that, you know, we can't find people that can go ahead and, you know, the Cody Rhodes of the Roman Reigns that could go ahead and headline that show. But like, what about the rest of that card? That undercard is going to be a little bit under-fulfilling, in my opinion. And also leading up to the Netflix deal. The thing is that the ratings are flatlining right now. It's not good. Yeah, you could say it's not WrestleMania season, but it doesn't get that much different coming up going forward. But then that Netflix deal starts kicking in. And what in the world is this company going to do to be able to go ahead and get everybody go ahead and say, oh, we're not going to watch, this hot new show on Netflix, something that Ryan Murphy's creating, or something that Shonda Rhimes is creating, or some movie that's out there, or whatever else that people want to go and binge watch on Netflix. You're going to make those people decide, oh, we're going to go and watch Raw tonight. Now, are they going to catch it live? Probably not on Netflix, because that's not a place you would go watch live content. Netflix is not the place to go for live content. It's all on demand. So they have to create that kind of idea of something that's must-see television. And I think we're must-see TV, that's an old catchphrase from the 90s. They made it a little bit into the 2000s, but that's 20 years old. So what are you going to do then? I just want the stars to get better. And I think if Triple H had something else that he felt was in his rearview mirror, which is what I always said about Vince McMahon, he felt like AEW was in his rearview mirror, so I think that did motivate him. And I still think some of the things, listen, he could throw a lot of things on the wall, and a couple of things might stick. Well, at least it's better than what we have right now. I really believe that. And it is not a put down on the star power they have right now. We know they have an elite locker room, but poorly managed. Booking matches and just to have matches, that's one thing. But booking feuds and booking storylines that I'm going to be emotionally and really invested in. When I see something coming out, it's not just to go and see a match. It's like remembering, oh, look at all the shit they've been going on with. And not something like a CM Punk, Drew McIntyre feud that's been going on forever. It was good at the start, but this is going too far. It's okay. You're going to finish with Bad Blood. Make sure it's done. I don't know what they're going to do to overtop what they've done with the Four Corners match, the strap match, right? Or whatever. I don't know yet. I mean, there's probably some things they could do a Saturday night's main event when they finally get to that point, I guess, One of the things I'll probably make is a small prediction that I think will probably happen by that point. I don't know when he might come back from injury, but I personally think that Seth Rollins will probably be back by then. I don't know. But they got to do something to kind of build things back up. Maybe John Cena comes back at that point, because something's got to build up to the Netflix deal. Raw's got to get somewhere there. And what they're doing right now, that's not going to cut it. I hope you know that. So anyway, come back for another Wrestling History podcast, because wrestling needs us.